Hey guys, this is Jason. I'm reviewing Plankton the movie, directed by Dave Needham, and it is another SpongeBob spin-off. Yay! After failing to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula again, his computer wife Karen is fed up with him not listening to her, and she decides to take over the world without him around, so both Plankton and SpongeBob have to work together to stop Karen and get Plankton to apologize to her. Now, as I mentioned in my review for Saving Bikini Bottom, I loved SpongeBob as a kid. I loved watching the first 3 seasons, the first movie when I saw it in the theater, and loved playing some of the video games. Everything else, like the rest of the show and some of the other films, not really. Especially Saving Bikini Bottom, which is, in my opinion, the worst SpongeBob film. And when they announced a spin-off for Plankton, one of the main villains of the show, was getting his own movie, I was like, oh god, we're getting another spin-off film, because Saving Bikini Bottom was a Sandy Cheeks movie, and Patrick Star had his own show, and they made a Camp Coral series that's supposed to show the characters as kids. And they're spin-off films that no one asked for, but we got them anyway because money. Yay! But I can at least say that this movie's not terrible. It's not awful. It's nowhere near as bad as Saving Bikini Bottom, because this movie does have a little bit of effort to it, mostly with some of the humor, where they did have a couple of moments that did make me chuckle a bit. Sure, there is the usual humor that only kids can laugh at, but I found some funny moments that I think adults can have a good laugh at. And what does kind of help with this film is that this film is written by Mr. Lawrence, who also voices Plankton in the show, so he knows the character well, and the writing for this film does have a couple of moments that will give you a good laugh. And the characters, especially Plankton, still feel like the characters you would expect to see from the show, where Plankton is still trying to take over the world but constantly failing to steal a Krabby Patty secret formula, which if you watch the show then you already know how that constantly goes. I thought the voice acting was pretty solid. Mr. Lawrence is still great as Plankton, and Tom Kenny, of course, is still great as SpongeBob, and everyone else from the show still gives a great performance in this film as well, which would make sense because most of these actors have been voicing these characters for almost 26 years, so you already know that they know these characters by heart, and they're gonna give good performances as those characters. The animation is decent. It's not great, it looks fine. The characters look like the characters from the show without going into too much details or trying to do something weird for this film like Saving Bikini Bottom did went too far with its animation. I mean, what were they thinking with the stuff they put in that film? Like this? Like, why would they think that that's a good idea to put in the film? Or this? Like, why did they go with that? Now, if you are a fan of Plankton from the original series and you love the show in general, especially the newer episodes, then you might have a fun time watching this. But if you're only a fan of the older episodes, then you might not like some of the stuff that they had to retcon for this film, because there's a scene where they explain why Plankton wants to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula so much, even though season 5 already did that before, but for some reason they decided to retcon it anyway. Which that tells you that this movie is only made for newer fans that don't really care about the older episodes, but if you do care about those older episodes, the new stuff they go with for this film are gonna bother you. The story is pretty basic and predictable, where you can easily pinpoint which character is gonna go and what story is gonna happen from a mile away, and see how they all turned out, which even if you've never watched the show, you can easily pick which part is gonna happen and how predictable it is. Now, the humor for the most part is just the usual kid humor that only kids can laugh at, like they have a few butt jokes that would happen a couple of times, which if they don't bother you so much, then you might like some of the humor, because this movie is made for that demographic. But if you're an adult and you don't enjoy those jokes, then you're not gonna get much with the humor in this film. Now, after you learn more about who Plankton is, you really don't start to like him throughout throughout the first half of the film because he's completely oblivious to his actions and how he treats Karen, and he's just more focused on world domination, making him a terrible husband to Karen, making you think to yourself, like, why is she, like, sticking with him throughout the entire show? And that really makes it frustrating for both new and old fans that are watching the film and are supposed to believe that this is our main character throughout the film. Now, I get it. I get that's his character. I get that he's supposed to be more focused on world domination, but when it's focusing on him as the main lead and he's oblivious to his actions throughout the majority of this film, that's just gonna make it hard for the audience to enjoy the film. Now, there's one aspect about this film that I really didn't expect, and that is that this movie decides to be a musical. Yep. For whatever reason, this movie decides to be a musical. Why is it a musical? I don't know, it's just a musical, I guess. It just felt very jarring and out of nowhere and feel kinda pointless. Sure, there were a couple of fun ones, but for the most part, most of the songs in this film felt like they were just there to stretch out the runtime. So regardless of those issues, Plankton the movie surprisingly wasn't awful. It still had some redeeming qualities, like the animation being decent, good voice acting, and a couple of moments that made me laugh, but it still turned out to be another mediocre SpongeBob spin-off with a predictable plot, an unlikable lead, kid humor that made me roll my eyes, and musical numbers that just felt pointless. Now, if you have kids and you love SpongeBob and you like the newer episodes, including the spin-offs, then you're gonna have a fun time watching them. You're gonna enjoy this film regardless of how I feel about it. But if you're more of a fan of the older episodes, or if you're not a fan of SpongeBob in general, you're really not gonna get much out of this one, because this movie still turned out to be another spin-off film that no one asked for and still ended up being very mediocre. I'm gonna give Plankton the movie a C. So guys, if you have seen Plankton the movie, what did you think about it? Do you think it's a great spin-off, or do you think that this one wasn't that great? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you liked this video, then please leave a like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing, because it helps my channel grow. Hit the notification bell so you know what other videos I'm posting. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.